What's up, Geeks and Gamers? It's Odin coming back with a box office breakdown for this past weekend, which finally sees the Super Mario Bros. Film cross $1 billion worldwide, which means that Jeremy has officially won the Friday Night Tights bet. So be on the lookout this Friday for me eating some pineapple on pizza. I'm not looking forward to it. But hey, congratulations to Jeremy. He was indeed correct in predicting this movie. But it's interesting because it seems that the actual full predictions of this film are still very much up in the air as, again, it's crossed $1 billion. And now the big question is, okay, how much past $1 billion does it actually make? Because now we're talking about the film having the potential to get anywhere between $1.3 and $1.6 billion, especially depending upon how well it performs in places like Japan and South Korea. Early numbers from South Korea were indicating that a local film was actually beating out Super Mario Bros. Again, that was just going through Saturday, so some things may have changed since then. It's very hard to get those raw numbers, and so I'm sure that Deadline and other sources are going to probably update their sites throughout the day as they get these numbers coming in. Also, when it comes to these markets, they don't work the same exact way as they would in the North American market, where a lot of people go to see films right off the bat, right away. In these Eastern nations, in these Eastern countries, you tend to see probably a little bit more of a slow trickle, especially when you have films that are coming from Western companies, even though, again, there is about a 50-50 split is the early projections on how much of it was produced by Nintendo and how much of it was produced by Universal/Illumination. But, however, that being said, it's still being distributed by a Western country, and so that is still, I think, going to have I think personally it's going to have an impact, but we'll have to wait and see what those numbers are. As I said, it's already having somewhat of an impact in South Korea with a local film doing better. And based off of what I've seen from the film Suzume in Japan, that film is actually going to remain in theaters there up until May 27th. And that film has actually done quite a bit of numbers, quite a bit of box office from the Japanese market especially. And so it's going to be very interesting to see where those numbers fall. But this film still has crossed $1 billion, and even if it doesn't do crazy numbers in those places, and I'm not saying that it's not going to do those numbers, I'm just saying I still think that the jury's still out on those because, again, time will only tell truly how much it'll make of those markets because of how much slower they tend to react versus other nations. But hey, doesn't take away the fact this film has made $1 billion and will continue to add to its overall totals. Coming from Deadline, as it says, it continues. It says here that's added $40 million and continues to break records with the best fourth weekend ever for an animated movie, beating Incredible 2's $28.4 million. It's also the best fourth frame for a Universal title. It easily is beating Jurassic World's $29.2. It's even ahead of Spider-Man No Way Home's fourth weekend, which did $32.1 million. Again, always important thing is whenever they try to do these comparisons to other films from previous years, they only take the raw numbers. They don't adjust these numbers for inflation. Still doing very well. Again, there's no denying the fact that the film is going to be in some of the top films in these fourth week frame. However, I just wish that they would actually be a little bit more fair and honest when it comes to those overall numbers. As it says here, Nancy, good old Nance over at Deadline, indeed reported just on Saturday that the film would be crossing $1 billion on today, but she has not updated, or at least as a recording of this video, there was not an update to that report trying to break down. And again, that's where we're going to get the breakdown of how much it's made so far in Japan, in South Korea, and what the projections are there. But again, let's go ahead and see. So just go ahead and check this in real time to see if we're going to get any numbers officially from this place. Again, even when you are self-referencing, it takes a little while. Yeah, as you can see, they have not been able to update this site as of the recording of this video. But as you can see, Super Mario Bros. Still doing incredibly well, a 33% hold. Again, these are insane numbers. These are very, very strong numbers. Still a very strong per theater ratio here. And this is definitely going to be the film to beat this year when it comes to raw box office potential. As I said, with 1.3 to 1.6 is currently what I think this film is probably going to end up doing when all is said and done, dependent upon how well it does in South Korea and especially in Japan. Then we're looking at, again, the film that you're going to have Fast 10 trying to beat this movie. You're going to also have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trying to beat this movie. And I think Guardians, out of all the films, especially because of positive early reaction, has probably the best chance of any Marvel film for the next few years to be able to cross $1 billion. Doesn't mean that it is, and the early projections on the movie are not looking very good. But hey, positive word of mouth has changed things before, and so we'll, of course, follow that and let y'all know as the weeks continue to roll along. But Super Mario Bros. Is clearly dominating every single film, including all the new releases, all the films that came out in their second week of release, and kudos to them. Evil Dead Rise dropped 50% in its second week, but it's been able to make just enough money to be able to start adding to its overall profits. Hey, good job, Warner Brothers. You made a movie that actually made money. A new film from Lionsgate, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Oh boy. $6.8 million there at 3,000 screens. Based on its budget, not a great start for that film. John Wick Chapter 4 also continues to hang around, 14% drop. So hey, pretty strong hold there for the John Wick franchise. $5 million continuing even after it's been out for several weeks. It's still not moving fast enough, I think, to get to the $400 million mark. If it does, it'll barely get there. But as I said, I just don't think it's going to necessarily happen. What I think is actually the most impressive, and something that just makes me very, very happy, and anyone who's a Star Wars fan especially should make you also happy as well, is that in the top 5 for this week, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Yes, that's right. Star Wars from the 1980s was able to get re-released in only 475 screens, and was able to make $4.6 million. That's $9,800 per screen. Look at that. That's actually better than the per theater ratio for the Super Mario Brothers movie. I think that this also kind of shows you, again, more so about these other films rather than Super Mario. But the fact that this movie is doing as well as it is, again, it's putting a lot of these modern Hollywood films to shame, especially new releases. It's just, again, sad to see modern Hollywood just not being able to produce the kinds of films that we had in times previous. Dungeons & Dragons number 6 at $4.1 million. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, unfortunately, in its second week of release, has dropped 43% and is set to be a pretty big flop. I know a lot of people have been excited for Sisu. I personally was not a huge fan of it. I thought the trailer was phenomenal, and all of the great moments are in the trailer. So if you want to see the trailer just with extra 30-minute sequences between action sequences and it be, I think, relatively slow and boring, that's up to you. But again, I think that if you've seen the trailer, you've seen actually a better version of the film. And if you enjoy it, hey, kudos to you. But unfortunately, it did not live up to the hype that I had going in, because the trailer really is very, very well done. Also new from Sony, Big George Foreman, The Miraculous Story of a title that's way too long. So I'm just calling it Big George Foreman. Only $3 million. Wide release. Terrible per theater ratio. This film also likely going to end up being a flop. Looking at the international numbers, Super Mario Brothers film at $1 billion, $1,022 million. And again, we don't have a full breakdown of how that works for each individual country, and that will update on this site probably over the next couple of days. And we'll get, again, further information when Deadline releases that article. So maybe that'll be up by the time I record the box office breakdown for my channel over at OMB Reviews. Evil Dead Rise at $86.5 million. Probably going to get to $100 million at the very least. So, hey, good job, Warner Brothers. You finally made money. $6.8 million for Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. John Wick Chapter 4 is at $369 million. As I said, I think it's probably too far away at this point, and Mario is just dominating everything. And then this coming week, you also have the release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I just think there's going to be a little bit too much competition in the marketplace for John Wick Chapter 4 to be able to get to the $40 million mark, still doing very well and able to make its money back. Star Wars, as I said, in the top 5. Crazy that this movie's still in the top 5. Again, crazy, but also makes complete sense. And again, continues to add to its overall totals. And this is the reason why also inflation is so important, by the way, because you're looking at this saying $479 million, that's nothing. But that's because this is the unadjusted number. We all know this film was a huge hit, huge success. Especially when you look at the other films in the franchise. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves at $194, still looking like it's going to be a flop at this point, even though its holds have been pretty strong. And then Guy Ritchie's The Covenant at $12.2 million. Not going to be able to make up the losses that it is going to end up seeing. So talking about those losses, with Big George Foreman's break-even point at being around $80 million right now, with $3 million in the bank, only $46.2 million in the red at this point in time. Probably going to end up being a flop. Sisu, only $6 million in the red. This film did better than what anyone had expected it to, so I would actually not be surprised to see this film continue to add to its numbers, because it is making people intrigued. I know there are a lot of people who did like this movie, and I think that that's ultimately going to lead to a lot more people going into the theaters. Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret? Based off a book. I don't really care much about this. $40.9 million in the red, though. Not a very strong start for that film. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, I can now make some projections on this film because of it getting only to $12.2 million. It's probably going to end somewhere between 17 and 24 million when all is said and done at the box office. Because of its production budget, it's going to lose somewhere between 67 and 71 million by the end of it. Right now, currently 75 million in the red. I just do not see this film being able to come back from that. And it's sad because it's a great film. It's a great, solid Guy Ritchie film. If you look at Evil Dead Rise, I'm projecting the film to make somewhere between 45 and 75 million in net gain profits. Currently, it's at 23.4. So again, kudos to you, Warner Brothers. It's not going to make up the mass losses they've seen this year, but hey, better make some money, I guess. 61 million currently for The Pope's Exorcist at 9.6 million in net gain profits. Unfortunately, we have also Nefarious still out. Great film, but no one's still going to see it. It's still doing very well compared to its first couple weeks. Don't have a budget on the film, though, so I cannot say whether it's making any money, really. Renfield at $22.4 million is an $84 million flop, and it's just continuing to lose out on money. Whereas the Super Mario Brothers movie, as you can see from this, well over $1 billion at this point in time. Right now at $463 million in net gain profit. Looking like it's going to get close to 500, 600, 700, maybe, again, depending on how well it does in these other nations. We're talking about a film that's going to at least be $500 million in net gain profit for the companies that, again, are going to be getting these raw profits from them. Remember, it's about a 50-50 split between Nintendo and Illumination or Universal. And so, hey, kudos to them. And they're not even finished for this year, because Fast 10, even though I have no interest in the Fast and Furious franchise anymore, I stopped at 6. It was like the last tolerable one for me. They still make a crap ton of money, and so I would not be surprised to see Fast 10 do the same thing. But those are the numbers as they currently stand. What are y'all's thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. Check me out over at my channel, OMBReviews.com, as well if you want to see further updates on this as we get more information throughout the day. And again, let me know in the comments. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people, make sure you smash that like button as well. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and as always, God bless.